President Trump dropping a profanity-laced nuke on the Dems' newly minted radical in Michigan, Dr. Abdul.
When I watch Abdul, he's full of If you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country. What I didn't say is what they're trying to do. They want to skip socialism. They want to go right down to the bottom of the barrel. That's communism. They want it to be a communist country. We're not letting them have it as a communist country, not even for a minute.
Meanwhile, Dr. Abdul's in the lab, experimenting with a brand new political formula to convince everyone he's not a socialist.
Look at the background. It says no tax on tips. The man can't stay on focus. That's like the one thing that he did to offer any economic relief. But instead of that, he's more focused on me. The question that people are asking is not where do you stand on the left-right spectrum on a series of issues that people talk about on CNN. I'm not a socialist, but I am a scientist. And so I like empirically driven answers to hard problems. I like to solve them.
But the old guard isn't ready to surrender. The New York Times reporting that moderate Dems are beating the war drums and prepping for a fight with the socialist faction of the party. However, there's no salty grapes for Abdul's former opponent, Haley Stevens, embracing the phony physician at a Unity breakfast this morning. All right, Harold Ford Jr., I don't think you've commented on this race yet. How's it going?
If I were up 12 to 15 points like the doctor was several days ago, at least the public and some private polling suggested. First, it's good to be back with everybody. I've missed everybody.
It's you too, Harold.
And I won by less than a point, or even if I won by 12 to 15 points, you have to have a humility. You have to have a willingness to not ask people to unite around you, but to unite around the ideas and the things that you care about, the things that you want to do on behalf of people. Give him a couple of days. He didn't show that 2 nights ago, the last couple of nights. I was happy to see the Congresswoman extend the grace that she has. 2, I would say to him and to President Trump, to Dr. El-Sayed, who I don't know, the blaming of Trump for everything and Trumpism, I get it. Try to unite the party around that. That's not what's going to win this election. I would say to President Trump that calling us socialist and communist, and for that matter, using profanity, that won't be enough. This will be a contest of ideas. I think a little differently than some who, my Democrat friends, who think this could very well be a wave election. It just might be. But it won't be a wave unless we focus on issues. I think that voters are going to surprise people all across the country by rewarding the candidate who puts forward the best set of ideas to address the priorities and failings and concerns in their own lives. That's the one gratifying thing, the one positive takeaway I have from all of this, Jesse. It's hard for me to wrap my arms around how you could be for no police, no borders, no prisons, supporting Hamas, no president, no Senate, and say somehow or another you're for America. Put aside Democrat or Republican, how you can say you're for America. I don't think those ideas are going to be the ones that prevail in the fall. And I also don't believe that the president is going to be able to get away with the profanity, nor will Democrats be able to get away with a socialist communist lean. You're going to have to offer answers. And whomever does that best, Democrat or Republican, they will win.
And now Democrats are fighting a two-front war. They're spending $15 million to fight the far left, and they're fighting Trump.
Yeah, that's right. And I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think that's really smart political analysis. I mean, if it was enough just to attack Trump, our friend with the great hair, Sri Thanedar, would be, in fact, still serving in Congress. He lost the nomination yesterday. He was the one who kept impeaching Trump. That wasn't enough. You had to be a socialist. He was outflanked on the left by a progressive DSA member. Harold's right. You need to have a little humility in politics. And I have not seen that from El-Sayed. I watched a 21-minute, rather boring interview, I would note, on CNN. And I saw a lot of hubris in there. I saw hubris when he was asked point blank, do you denounce Hassan Piker, the guy who says America deserves 9/11, the guy you were at a pool party at the day before your election, the guy who dismissed crimes against Israeli Jews on October 7th, against children, against infants. He would not do that. He instead pivoted, wouldn't denounce Hassan Piker, really low moment. But the hubris is one thing that I would really focus on with him. Politico had a write-up when they thought this was even. We didn't know if he'd win or lose. They said the day of the election, he flashed his Whoop fitness bracelet and said, look at this, guys. And it said stress level was low. He thought he was going to run away with this election. He was waxing poetic about 2028 and being a power broker there. This is a man who was bragging that he's getting more sleep than the reporters. He thought he was waltzing into this. It didn't happen. That being said, he's very clever. He's very crafty. He's a snake. He knows how to disguise socialism. But what he doesn't have is what Mamdani has. And that interview that Martha McCallum did with Zohran Mamdani was very good. You saw Zohran Mamdani be charming. You saw him package socialism in the same way this man can. But he has a humility, and this man has a hubris. And ultimately, that's his downfall. Along with last point, he won 0 of 15 counties in Michigan with the least amount of college degrees. He won 13 of 15 with the greatest college degrees. And what that tells me is the smartest people in our country are the people with no college degrees in the Michigan primary in the Democratic Party, because they saw straight through this so-called non-socialist socialist.
Well, maybe it's because he's a scientist, Greg, and people don't like scientists. They know too much.
He's a scientist. Jill Biden is a doctor. Look, America is not going to become a socialist country, but the Democrat Party could be a socialist party. And this is the problem with the Dems. First, I want to talk about the Dems, and then I want to talk about the rest of us. The Dems have suffered from years of cowardice. They've refused to draw a line in the sand and left themselves dependent upon the very faction it's now trying to contain. To save the party, they need to publicly disagree with the DSA on the border, on trans, and crime. Yet their party's culture, the incentives, the risk aversion makes that impossible. They treated the DSA like a junior partner rather than a rival ideology, and now they're paying the price. They adopted, the Democrat Party made the mistake of adopting the left's language on everything. You know, the border, abolishing ICE, gender ideology, you can go on and on and on with those phrases, crime, defunding the police. That created a vacuum for this organized left that had the energy and the moral fervor to fill, which wasn't there with the Democrats. And now the Democrats, they fear donor flight from the progressive arena. So they don't know if they want to upset this faction that has a cultural and youthful leverage. It's there. The cost of fighting them, it will invite warfare and alienate the base. So, but more important, I resent having to debate over ideologies that have not only failed, but killed millions. That we're having this discussion is offensive. So I feel like we should leave this with the Democrats, you know, and focus not on articulating a message, but implementing the message that we have. Because if you think about it, all the major fronts we've won. The opposition has retreated on the trans agenda, the climate agenda, which we don't hear about, the open border agenda, and for good reason. Their reality got a cold shower. Men can't be women. Fossil fuels are necessary. A country can't survive without a border. Crime is not a lifestyle of the oppressed. And your identity doesn't matter when you're making me a smoothie. So all of these destructive beliefs were beaten, but still they're alive and twitching in the DSA. And if they don't put that out, the Democrat Party's toast. So that's their battle. It's not ours.
Take it away, Martha.
So I agree with everything that has been said. And I would only add this. When you look at the biggest stars who have won Democratic elections, the presidents, Bill Clinton, you look at Barack Obama, and you go back not that far, and you look at the things that they said and why they won and why they were able to bring the country together successfully and have 2 terms. And Bill Clinton, make welfare what it's meant to be, a second chance, not a way of life. This is looking profound at this point. And this is also something that I think most people hear, and they say, yes, of course, that's the way it should be. It should be a temporary help to get you through a rough patch. It's not a way of life. Then history teaches us the greatest force the world has ever known for creating wealth and opportunity is free markets. This is Bill Clinton. Other models have been tried, and they have failed. President Obama, the best anti-poverty program is a job. Do you hear any of these people talking this way, saying this? This is common sense. This is what resonates with people. And I do think to Kayleigh's point, it is why when you look through the maps in Michigan, And Harry Etten said it very well and mapped it out very well. He said, you know, she won in the more ethnic areas. She won in the black areas. She won in the blue collar areas. And he, quote, was really just the college towns.
All right, well, college town's not going to get you the dub. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.